My parents replaced my birthdays with my sister's tantrums for 8 years. On my 18th, they humiliated me again. So I walked away and left them broken forever. I'm 18 this year and recently moved out on my own from my parents. I have a sister who's about 10 years younger than me. She had an unplanned pregnancy and almost didn't make it to full term. I don't know many of the details about how hard my mom's second pregnancy was, since they never told me much, but I do know it was so rough on her body that she couldn't have more kids afterward. My mom was in and out of the hospital that entire year, and she nearly didn't survive my sister's birth. Because of that, my parents clung tightly to her, treating her like a miracle child who might never have existed. Ever since then, I felt like I was just the other kid in the house, except when they needed a free babysitter. The level of favoritism my parents showed over the years makes me believe they were honestly messed up in the head for not realizing what it was doing to me. Now it's starting to backfire on them, which I'll explain, beginning with my 11th birthday. On my 11th birthday, my parents forced me to let my 2-year-old sister blow out my candles because she cried at the sight of a cake that wasn't hers. I didn't want to, but they made me. They relit the candles afterward so I could blow them out, but the moment was already ruined. The same thing happened the next year, and the year after that, it just became the norm. My sister also had to get gifts on my birthday, but I never got any on hers. When I asked why, they told me, "You're a boy. Boys don't need to worry about that stuff." I know I was just a kid, but how could they think that was a good thing to say? To make it worse, they'd always choose somewhere my sister liked to go on my birthday instead of somewhere I wanted. Eventually, it felt like she was getting 2 birthdays every year while I got none. Beyond that, my parents made their entire lives revolve around her. If there was something I wanted to do, my sister had to want to do it too, otherwise it was shut down, unless I could do it alone. So I just locked myself in my room with my video games, since that was the only place they left me alone. Unless my sister decided to barge in to annoy me. That's why I installed a lock on my door. My parents wanted me to remove it, but I snapped, angry and tired of being intruded on whenever they felt like it. More than once, my sister ran into my room when I wasn't even dressed, and my parents blamed me for being naked in my own room. When I pointed out how insane that was, they backed off and let me keep the lock. My sister developed a full-on princess complex from being spoiled every day. She was demanding, entitled, and exhausting, so I avoided her as much as I possibly could. I'd make up any excuse just to have time to myself. At one point, my parents hired a teenage babysitter so I'd finally get a break. That lasted until the girl quit, because my sister wouldn't listen to her. My parents even tried to stiff her by saying she did a bad job, but she got others involved and forced them to pay up. Eventually, they hired another babysitter who stayed on long term, but even then, my parents made it clear I was still expected to watch my sister whenever I had free time. So I deliberately kept myself busy with my part-time job whenever I could. To my sister, I was just her personal butler. She'd boss me around constantly, and even gave me a stupid nickname she refused to stop using. Just hearing that nickname makes my blood boil, and if I didn't give her exactly what she wanted, she'd cry and call our parents. Then I'd get in trouble for mistreating her. We had countless blowout arguments over this, and when I finally refused to give in anymore, my relationship with my parents broke down into barely a few words spoken between us. Still, during my high school graduation, they had the audacity to brag to other parents that they were the reason I worked so hard. Well, they weren't wrong, but not for the reason they believed. I worked hard because I was biding my time, counting the days until I could finally be free. They liked to act like they had done so much for me, but maybe that was true before my sister was born. Afterward, it was always about her. They didn't even ask me about school unless it was time for parent-teacher conferences. I graduated with a B and C average, and afterward, instead of celebrating me, my parents dragged me to a place my sister would have more fun at. Even though the trip was supposed to be for me, on my 18th birthday that July, everything finally boiled over. Even though it was supposed to be a milestone, it didn't feel like it was about me at all. I prayed we'd finally go to my favorite restaurant for once, but no. They held the party at the local knockoff Chuck E. Cheese, the same place they used for every big occasion, my graduation included. Just like I said, it was a place my sister loved more than me. I was surrounded by kids half my age, stuck eating bland pizza and wasting time at claw machines and outdated arcade games for cheap prizes I didn't care about. When it came time for cake, my parents brought out one that was pink with white flowers on it. Sure, it had my name on it, but it was obvious it wasn't a boy's cake. To make it worse, There were only 10 candles. Then, they lit them and set the cake right in front of my sister to blow out. That's when it finally happened. All the pent-up anger and hurt over the years hit me at once, and I just broke. I started ugly crying, me, an 18-year-old, sobbing in front of the whole family. Everyone was so stunned it felt like time froze. I stood up, and 8 years of bottled-up pain came spilling out in a flood of words I couldn't stop. The entire family got a front-row seat. When I was finally done, I walked out and sat by the car. Some relatives followed me out, apologizing and saying they didn't know about the pink cake because my parents had kept it covered until it was served. I told them it didn't matter. They had all sat back for years while my life was swallowed up by Little Miss Sunshine. For 8 birthdays, I hadn't had one that was truly mine. And now, on the biggest birthday of my life, they still expected me to smile and nod while my sister blew out candles on a cake that was clearly meant for her. A few family members tried apologizing, but they excused themselves by saying they thought I was okay with it because my parents told them I was. I told them I had never been okay with it, that my parents forced it on me year after year until I just pretended to accept it. I spread my arms wide and told them to look around. Did it look like this was the place I wanted to celebrate my graduation and 18th birthday? No one ever stuck up for me. All this time I'd just been the other kid, while my sister got everything. My parents had even stopped letting me invite my friends years ago, after they dared to question why my sister always blew out my candles. There are 365 days in a year. Was it really so selfish to want just one day that was about me and not her? Instead, I was treated like the greedy, entitled one for wanting my own birthday. I broke down crying again, harder this time. That's when my dad came outside, yelling at me for making such a huge scene because my mom was crying inside. My sister was upset because I had ruined her moment, and now according to him, everyone thought they were bad parents. I screamed back that they were bad parents, and that he knew exactly why. After I said that, the rest of the family descended on my dad like a pack of wolves. Better late than never, I guess, but I'd never seen anything like it before. He was practically cornered against the restaurant's front door, and soon most of the relatives stormed back inside with him to confront my mom too. My grandparents stayed with me, apologizing for keeping their eyes shut for so long. I don't know exactly what was said to my parents inside, but about half an hour later they came back out looking completely defeated. My mom was still sniffling from crying so hard, and neither of them could look me in the eyes. They gave me a stiff apology and offered to redo the party somewhere else, but the rest of the family clearly didn't think that was enough. One of my uncles cleared his throat loudly, and my parents quickly added that they'd never again make me let my sister blow out my candles, or give her gifts on my birthday, or turn any part of it into her day. Another relative made a noise of disapproval, and my parents stumbled into apologizing for the pink flowery cake too, saying they just thought I didn't care about cakes anymore at my age. That was the absolute worst thing they could have said. I exploded all over again, shouting that my age didn't matter. What mattered was that they had handed my birthday to my sister year after year for no good reason. I told them it was pointless to redo the party because it was too late. They had already proven I meant nothing to them. They'd ruined 8 years of my life, right up until adulthood. So what future birthdays could I possibly look forward to with them? My dad started to get angry at me for saying that, but when the entire family shouted him down, he went silent. My grandfather spoke up, saying I was absolutely right, that nothing could undo the damage now. He said my parents had been terrible for playing favorites and treating me like the family's black sheep ever since my sister was born, and the rest of them had been terrible too, for standing by and letting it happen. He told them I deserved more than an apology. I deserved my life back. My mom broke down crying again, trying to rush toward me while sobbing my name, but I refused to let her near me. Half the family physically blocked her from getting close. I told them I couldn't take it anymore and started walking away, but one of my aunts ran after me and coaxed me back. I could still hear relatives inside cussing at my parents, but I was too upset to even feel satisfied about any justice finally being served. And where was my sister during all this? Still inside, happily eating cake and tearing open the gifts meant for me. If you're wondering, yes, my parents actually served her some cake after I'd broken down and left. You'd think that wouldn't have been their priority in that moment, but they were called out on it later. Eventually, my grandparents calmed me down and had me sit in their old minivan while everyone else cleared the party out. My sister threw a full-blown tantrum after being caught ripping open my presents, including a brand new smartphone she smashed against the wall when she wasn't allowed to keep it. She had literally just gotten a new phone on her own birthday a few months earlier. I was so angry and drained that I ranted about never wanting to celebrate my birthday again. My grandparents let me stay the night at their house. When I finally went back home, I still didn't speak to my parents. My mom just kept crying because I wouldn't acknowledge her, and my dad stayed as tight-lipped as I was. The following weekend, my grandparents convinced me to go out to dinner with them. To my surprise, when we arrived, there was a whole new party waiting. My parents were there too, wearing those strained, "don't hate us" smiles the entire time. This time, there was a big chocolate cake with all 18 candles, and even a banner with my name on it. They called it my happy belated birthday and graduation party, since I didn't get either properly the first time. I had to put on a face and pretend to enjoy it. But one decent party doesn't erase 8 years of favoritism, or even scratch the surface. And where was my sister? Sitting at the table with her arms folded and her lip curled, sulking because, for once, it wasn't all about her. Instead of singing Happy Birthday for me, the family just sang an altered version called Happy Day, and as soon as I blew out the candles, my sister let out an ear-splitting scream. My parents had to rush her outside and only brought her back in later, looking more upset than ever. She sat sulking in her chair for the rest of the party. I still got a new smartphone, and my sister had hers taken away along with other privileges for what she did at the last party. But the phone wasn't even the biggest gift. The whole family had chipped in and gotten me a car. It was just an old white Volvo, but I loved it the instant I saw it. My grandfather, who knows his way around cars, had fixed it up himself. I was beyond happy. My sister, on the other hand, clearly wasn't. She let out another piercing scream, threw a huge tantrum, and started demanding a car of her own. My mom had to drag her into the bathroom, and they didn't come back for a long while. My dad just sat there looking completely defeated. My sister's meltdown ruined whatever hope my parents had of looking good in front of the rest of the family. Several family members tore into my parents, saying my sister was only acting that way because they'd raised her to be a spoiled princess. I started driving the Volvo right away, but only days later my sister vandalized it. She took a hammer and smashed 2 of the side windows, then cracked the windshield so badly it was undrivable. My parents managed to stop her before she could do even more damage, but she screamed like a wild animal and tried to bite them when they took the hammer away. Everyone was furious with her, especially my grandparents, since my grandfather had put so much time and effort into that car. The truth was, they had spoiled her so badly that she couldn't even process the idea that I had something she didn't. Other relatives went off on my parents too, saying they were setting her up for failure by raising her into an entitled brat who expected the world to be handed to her. They warned she was heading for a miserable adult life unless they finally put their foot down and taught her respect. This time, her actions didn't go without punishment. My sister was grounded for the rest of the summer and, starting with the new school year, was sent to boarding school. My mom bawled like a child about it, but my dad held firm, saying it was the only way to start undoing the damage. They openly admitted it was their fault. Hard not to, since nobody in the family defended them. My sister is absolutely miserable there. She hates the clothes, the rules, and the structure, and she lies constantly. But with cameras everywhere, she can't get away with anything. When my parents tried visiting her, she only screamed at them for putting her there. From what I hear, she'll be stuck at that school until she turns 18. My parents did pay to repair my car, hiring an auto glass company to replace the windows and windshield, so now it looks just as good as before. Then, in August, my grandfather came to me with a job offer from a friend of his. The catch? It was 40 minutes away, so I'd need to move out unless I wanted the long commute. I was more than ready. Finding my first apartment wasn't easy. I had to get approved for a credit card just to qualify for a small studio, but I pulled it off. I've been living here since September and I finally feel free. My parents keep trying to reach out, but I barely talk to them. Whenever I do, it's nothing but awkward and uncomfortable. My grandfather thinks they're just desperate to ease their own guilt. He says they probably want me to forgive them so they'll feel better about themselves. But I'm not ready. Not anytime soon. I'm finally happy on my own, and they've got nothing left. They don't have me, and they don't really have my sister either. Boarding school isn't cheap, nor was the party they threw for me, or the repairs to my car. Now they're stuck in an empty house with angry relatives, working extra hours just to cover their mistakes. I don't take pleasure in their misery, but it's the direct result of their choices. Edit. I want to thank everyone for all the awards. It really means a lot. I know this post was long and a lot to read, but I just needed to get the whole thing off my chest, and honestly, I feel a lot lighter now that I have. I noticed a few people in the comments calling this post fake, and I can't blame them. If I were on the outside reading it, I'd probably be skeptical too. But I lived it. Some parents really are like that. I've also been contacted by people who went through similar situations, some even worse. With how many bad parents are out there, is it really that hard to believe mine acted the way they did? Sure, the whole family running back into the restaurant to confront my parents might sound like a stretch, but you have to understand, I come from a close-knit family that sticks together. When things happen, it often turns into the entire group against one person. I've seen it before. Like when a drunk cousin was surrounded by relatives and dragged into another room to sober up because he was being inappropriate. I don't even like group mentalities myself, but this time it ended up saving me. My parents were shamed beyond words, and they couldn't come up with a single reason for what they did without making themselves look even worse. They basically surrendered, admitting they had no excuse. And now they're desperately trying to get on my good side. While many of you are praising my relatives for how they stepped up, I'm fairly certain a lot of that was driven by shame. They were there for most of those 8 birthdays, except for 2 years lost to COVID. But during the other 6, they didn't lift a finger. They'd just stand there with disapproving looks while my sister blew out my candles, but they never said anything. Why? Well, my dad is the son of the family's head, my grandfather, and he's a pretty intimidating man. If you're on his good side, he'll do whatever it takes to help you. But if you're on his bad side, the entire family will hate you. That's a big reason I don't like group mentalities. But once my grandfather finally said everyone was at fault for not helping me, the shame hit all of them. They all chipped in for the cost of my car afterward. With so many relatives, they didn't have to donate much each to cover it. I saw the receipt when I registered the car in my name. It cost $2,000 plus extra for parts and tires. My grandfather gave it a full tune-up and changed the fluids himself, and my grandmother deep-cleaned the interior. I am extremely grateful for everything they did, but I still want some distance. I need time to figure things out on my own. I probably won't see my parents again until Thanksgiving or Christmas. Some people also compared my sister to Eric Cartman from South Park, and honestly, it's not far off. She's chubby because my parents constantly fed her junk food, and she flat out refused to eat anything healthy. I once watched her dump gummy bears onto mashed potatoes, and just thinking about it makes me gag. Her awful diet kept her in the bathroom for long stretches. So my parents had to buy her special fiber snacks just to keep her regular, and I'm sure the good-tasting ones weren't cheap. On top of that, she was bossy to the point of being unbearable. She acted like she was in charge all the time, ordering me around non-stop, which is why I often locked myself in my room just to get peace. She even lost friends because of how controlling she was, but my parents always brushed it off, telling her the other kids were just jealous of how special she was. She often referred to herself as a princess, and the tantrums she threw when she didn't get her way could rival Eric Cartman at his worst. And it's not like she's dumb either. She's actually capable. She just doesn't try. She coasts by with a C average, but if she put in the effort, she could easily be a straight A student. Edit 2. Looks like I've been banned from the subreddit. Not sure what rule I broke. Maybe the post was just too long. Either way, I can't reply to comments anymore, but I want to sincerely thank everyone who gave me positive feedback. It meant a lot to me. Update. As for my parents giving my sister my birthdays for 8 years, well, it's been about a year since all of that blew up. I didn't log back in for a long time because I thought I was done here, but one day I figured, why not? And popped back in, only to find dozens of private messages asking for updates. So here's one pieced together mostly from what my parents and grandparents told me. So if it sounds too crazy, just remember I'm basically retelling what I've learned. Yes, I'm doing fine, but the same can't be said for my parents and my little sister. Sometime after my last post, my sister tried everything she could to get out of boarding school. None of her lies or manipulations worked. Then she tried doing absolutely nothing, but that didn't get her anywhere either. Next, she staged a hunger strike, claiming she wouldn't eat until our parents came to take her home. My mom nearly jumped in the car to rescue her baby, but my dad had to stop her, reminding her that our daughter's behavior was their fault. My sister's hunger strike didn't even last 2 days before she gave in and demanded food in the cafeteria. Still, she wasn't allowed sweets or snacks unless they were healthy. A pediatrician had already warned my parents that my sister, sister, Little Miss Sunshine, was at risk of diabetes and possibly stunted growth unless she got her diet under control. That meant no more gummy bears on mashed potatoes. Of course, my sister then tried becoming the bully of the boarding school, but the other girls didn't put up with her nonsense. One day she picked a fight and got beaten badly when several of them ganged up on her. Teachers broke it up eventually, but by then she was scraped and bruised all over. Nothing serious, but still. Naturally, she blamed everyone else and even insisted the other girls should just obey her. They didn't, and instead shunned her. She had an epic tantrum over it, because she'd been catered to her whole life. It was unthinkable to her not to get her way. My mom tried sneaking junk food into the boarding school for her, but my sister got caught. My parents fought bitterly about it, and once the secret was out, my mom stopped smuggling snacks. Still, my sister's obsession with junk food hasn't changed. She's only slightly better in that she's accepted, at least a little, that she's not the center of the universe. But her schemes to escape the school escalated. Just a few months in, she resorted to self-harm. She got her hands on a knife in the cafeteria and climbed onto a table, threatening to hurt herself unless they gave her candy and sent her home. Yes, you heard that right. Not just sent home. She demanded candy, too. Like I said before, she used to put gummy bears on everything she didn't like because it was the only way our parents could make her eat. Gummy bears on salad, for example. It completely defeated the point, but she did it all the time. Anyway, during the cafeteria scene, staff tried giving her some sweets while they talked her down, but she slipped and fell off the table. The fall broke her left arm, her collarbone, and left her with a concussion. After that, the boarding school had enough. Once she was released from the hospital, they refused to take her back. Instead, she was placed in a children's mental health ward. Now she's forced into therapy and has been formally diagnosed with severe narcissism, something she was raised into. She can't leave unless my parents pull her out. She's still required to continue her schooling there, and they've put her on a strict, healthy diet. For her, it's basically a personal hell. My mom wanted to pull her out immediately, but she and my dad had a massive fight about it. In the middle of it, she grabbed the closest object, a bottle on the counter, and smashed it against his face. It shattered, cracking his cheekbone and leaving him bleeding badly. The police were called. He was rushed to the hospital and my mom was taken away in the back of a squad car. She ended up being psych evaluated and committed for several months. During her stay, she was forced to confront her obsessive urge to enable my sister. From what I've been told, it all stems from serious childhood trauma of her own, but no one has told me the details more than that. There's still ongoing talk of divorce between my parents, though so far it hasn't gone further than them sleeping in separate bedrooms. As for me, my 19th birthday wasn't that long ago. My grandparents threw a party for me at a restaurant I actually like. My parents came and so did my sister. She was given a short leave from the ward. The bitterness in her eyes was unmistakable. She sat there with her lip curled, glaring at me like she wanted me to catch fire. She'd lost a fair bit of weight by then, thanks to her strict diet, and she'll be on it for a while yet. In fact, the junk food at my birthday party was the first she'd had in a long time. Still, she couldn't stand not being the center of attention. When I blew out my candles, she didn't scream this time. She started ugly crying, chanting "why" over and over again. It was pure manipulation, and I knew it. She may only be 9, but remember, last year at 8, she was demanding her own car because I was given one at 18. She can't even get a learner's permit until she's 15. At my party, she threw herself on the floor in a tantrum, raging that there was no pizza, no gifts, no prizes. Nothing for her. Then she cursed at our parents and tried storming out of the restaurant, basically trying to copy what I'd done last year, only in her twisted way. You might think I'm overanalyzing, but I know my sister. If she thinks a stunt will get her what she wants, she'll do it. My parents apologized to everyone and took her home early. But before they left, my grandfather pulled them aside. Later, my grandmother told me what he said, that they'd better not take my sister to another party afterward or give her what she wanted, because if they did, this cycle would never end. My sister overheard that, and when she realized her tantrum failed, she exploded. She was dragged out kicking and screaming. The next morning, she was driven back to the ward, where she still is now. I don't know how long she'll be kept there. She's still a kid, but the most stubborn one I've ever met. Honestly, she probably won't change until she hits her absolute lowest point. Until then, she's stuck in a place where nobody enables her behavior, not even our parents. and for once, no one has tried to blame me for anything that's happened over the past year. My parents have had to face the fact that I'm not at fault for my sister's behavior. They raised her to be this way. From what I've seen and read, enabling a narcissist is its own kind of addiction. Aside from narcissism, my sister hasn't been diagnosed with any other mental illness. She's actually pretty smart, tested with an IQ of around 110. The problem is, she won't apply herself unless there's some kind of reward. She was raised to think that way, and it'll take years to undo. As for me, I'm doing well living on my own. I've had to learn how to budget, pay bills, and take care of everything myself. It's not easy to adult, but it's still 1,000 times better than living with my parents and sister ever was. Edit. Someone pointed out that being kept in a long-term ward just for narcissism doesn't make much sense, and I agree. If there's a deeper diagnosis, it hasn't been shared with me. I can tell there are things I'm not being told, and since I'm not her parent, I can't ask her doctors directly. What I do know is that she's very self-destructive whenever she wants to manipulate a situation. Her knife stunt in the cafeteria was only the first of many similar incidents. Since being in the ward, she's been forced to face the fact that she's not a princess, but she still carries the mentality that she'll do anything to get her way. After my 19th birthday, she threatened to hurt herself again if our parents didn't take her out for fast food. When they refused, she tried to follow through. Her most common tactic lately has been slamming her head against the wall. My mom didn't want to report this, but my dad did, so yes, my sister continues to use self-harm as emotional blackmail, and in just the past month alone, she's already done it several times. Her attempts have become less frequent from what I've heard. Apparently, she also lies and claims her doctors hurt her, but her stories never line up. So on top of narcissism, I wouldn't be surprised if pathological lying is also part of the picture. Honestly, that's probably why she's in a long-term ward, because if she were home, my parents would slowly cave to her demands again, and things would go right back to how they were. That's exactly what Little Miss Sunshine is banking on. Update 3. I've gotten some clearer information about her. First off, I'll admit I'm an idiot. Some of you pointed out inconsistencies in my posts, and yeah, I messed up. I had D and C averages in school, and math was always my worst subject. I've repeatedly miscalculated my sister's age. That's on me. Usually I just say she's 10 years younger, but when I actually sat down and did the math on paper, the numbers made more sense. I was 8 when she was born in June. She first blew out my candles when she was 3. I also try to keep some details vague or slightly off for anonymity's sake, but honestly, anyone in my family could read this and know it's me. I really screwed up on that front. But let me be clear, my resentment toward my sister isn't just some jealous older brother thing. From the moment she was born, everything started revolving around her. Even before she turned 3, she was celebrated during my birthdays. Picture this. I'd be sitting there as the birthday boy while my mom flaunted her baby to the whole family. The gatherings became her stage to show off. I was basically ignored until it was cake time. At first, my grandparents made up for it, so it didn't sting too badly. They even said it was somewhat understandable, since my mom had nearly died during the pregnancy and my sister had just been born. But then came my 9th birthday, and the same thing happened. No one said a word. By my 10th birthday, it was worse. My parents spent half the time bragging about my sister's baby milestones instead of celebrating me. Some of my gifts were toddler toys clearly meant for her. They even labeled them as extra gifts, but everyone knew they weren't mine. Again, nobody in the family intervened. Then came my 11th birthday. The breaking point. There were actual gifts wrapped with my sister's name on them, and my parents insisted she blow out my candles. Everyone saw it. Nobody stepped in. After that, every venue was chosen around what she liked, not me. Sometimes she was even allowed to help me unwrap my presents. But really, I was just expected to play along and make her feel included. Multiply all of that over the years leading to my 18th birthday, and you'll understand why I finally snapped. That's why I always said my birthdays were stolen for 8 years. But truthfully, it was closer to 10. At that point, my parents admitting fault wasn't enough anymore. They broke something in me that can't just be fixed with an apology. I try to act like I can forgive them, but deep down, I don't think I ever can. Another thing some people mentioned, you can't officially diagnose narcissistic personality disorder, NPD, until someone is 18. I didn't know that. I just took my dad's word for it. So I called him this morning. When I asked about it, he sighed and admitted my sister is only showing signs of possible future NPD, along with other things, but she hasn't been formally diagnosed. He also hinted there's another mental disorder my mom has that he won't tell me about. Finally, my parents admitted that my mom was diagnosed months ago with PTSD, stemming from childhood trauma she still won't talk about. I'm not asking her to. It must be pretty bad. When I pressed my dad about why I'd been given such watered-down explanations and white lies, he snapped. He told me it's because my sister is their problem, not mine. He said I should just let it go, focus on my own life, and forget about having to deal with Little Miss Sunshine ever again. Sadly, that's one of the most logical things my father has ever said to me. As for her, there's still no clear time frame for how long she'll remain in the ward. I asked my dad another question, something a commenter made me think of. Had my sister ever said she wanted to kill me while she was there? His answer was somewhere in the middle. She did blame me, but she blames our parents more. Her main issue with me is her belief that what's hers is hers, and what's mine should also be hers. She's even jealous that I have my own apartment, which sparked more tantrums and demands for the same things I've earned for myself. Therapy has slowly chipped away at her rage, which is why she was permitted at my 19th birthday. But that day showed she still isn't anywhere near recovered. Her behavior flared right back up. Ever watch a toddler scream "mine" at anything it sees? That's my sister's mentality when it comes to my birthday. And that's 100% on my parents. She believes she's entitled to my birthday because it's always been given to her for as long as she remembers. That's why she screamed last year. That's why she broke down again this year. To her, my birthday is hers. My parents have begged me to leave the situation alone, telling me my sister will need a long time in treatment, and there's no guarantee she'll ever truly get better. My mom is in therapy herself now, on medication for her disorder, but the meds leave her lethargic most of the time. Somehow, she didn't lose her job after being committed for hitting my dad with the bottle. Her boss is apparently very sympathetic and let her work from home when she returned, though it came with lower pay and some kind of demotion. One detail I forgot to mention in my last post: my birthday this year wasn't on my actual birth date. Instead, we celebrated on the same day as last year's belated party. Honestly, I prefer it that way. My real birthday at the end of July is forever tainted for me. The belated day in early August feels like my fresh start, and that's the date I want to celebrate from now on. People keep asking how I'm doing. I was doing fine, pretty decent actually. It's been hard learning to adult, paying bills and managing finances, but I was making it work. Then, weirdly, coming back here to talk about all this has left me stressed out, almost like a mental relapse. I thought I had moved on, but now I'm edgy and cynical all the time. My boss even sent me home early the other day because they noticed. They know about my past, but I still felt awful. Even just having coffee this morning made my heart pound. I think I'm going to need to find a local support group or free counseling. Money's tight, but I need something. For now, I'm just trying to rest and keep my mind off everything. But honestly, I might not come back here again. Every time I write about it, I spiral. I do want to thank everyone who's read my posts and understood my pain. You're good people. I just need to get myself together and finally leave the past where it belongs. Edit. Rereading this, I realized I messed up my math again when explaining my age when my sister was born. I typed it too fast and didn't proofread. Typical me when I'm stressed. Today's been rough. My boss even told me to take a sick day. I actually threw up this morning from stress and spent most of the day in and out of the shower, lying in bed with a pounding headache. Only now am I starting to feel a little better. If I'd known telling the world would make me feel this way, I probably wouldn't have done it. To make it worse, last night I stumbled across another post, just half a month old, where someone described parents just as bad as mine. In their case, the parents cut up their older child's custom birthday cake, the one she had paid for herself, just because their own Little Miss Sunshine cried for a piece. Imagine that. The older child canceled the entire party afterward, and I don't blame her one bit. Seeing that post, along with the stories people have shared with me about similar situations, posts like that make it clear there are far too many parents out there like mine. Parents who only change when they're humiliated. But deep down, they're still the same people. I've decided to go low contact with my parents. Soon, I'll be visiting my grandparents to talk about everything face to face. As for here, I don't think I'll be posting again or even replying to comments. Honestly, I dread looking at my inbox already. I need a real break from Reddit, and I might not come back at all.